Hello, this is Eileen, the environmental educator, and in this video, we're going to talk about this interview that Mike Adams just did with Dane Wiggington. Today is January 10th. This interview here, this article here is January 10th. This doesn't have a date, but today is January 10th, and so Mike had on Dane, and they really, most of the interview was talking about this geoengineered Arctic blast that I can't wait to come down, maybe starting tomorrow night. It's going to be fun all weekend, I guess. But that was the main talk about this whole interview here. And it's very scary what Dane has to say, very interesting. You should, take a look at that. But then they get into ozone. Okay, so let's hear what they have to say here.
We have so many factors that are so far past the breaking point right now. And to weave another factor into this, Mike, if we take one aspect of what climate engineering is most responsible for damaging, the Earth's ozone layer, which if you compressed it into a single molecular level is, I believe, about 6 millimeters thick. It's unimaginably a thin layer if it was, again, compressed to a single molecular level that allows us to live on this planet. And climate engineering is wiping it out. Our latest update from the NASA contract engineer that works directly for geoengineeringwatch.org, former NASA contract engineer, is that he estimates that on average globally we're down to about 23% of the ozone layer remaining, again on average, which means it's thicker in some places, obviously thinner or non-existent in the polar regions. And the narrative that the ozone layer is recovering is complete, utter nonsense. Again, no ozone layer, no terrestrial life on Earth, can't grow food, and that's already the case in many places. We have reports from all over the world of people's gardens being singed and fried from the UV. We have the Cambrian layer on trees being burnt off from tip to trunk. And when people feel how hot and radiant that sun feels when you're in a clear spot of it, and the ozone layer thickness waxes and wanes, so it's not uniform all the time. But the sun is incredibly intense. You can feel it on surfaces. And Mike, you've probably noticed that, right?
Well, right. And also, let's talk about the magnetosphere for a second.
Okay, so they go on to talk about the magnetosphere there, the ionosphere. They're managing. I've talked about it in my videos before. The government needs HAARP to manage the top layers of the environment. No, they don't. But, what he said about the ozone layer here, it's a little interesting because now this right here, is the environmental educator from like 1994. Okay. And I talk about, the ozone layer. So Earth's first two layers are the troposphere and the stratosphere. And the troposphere goes, to about 5 miles above the poles and 10 miles above the equator. So the troposphere goes up to 30 miles. So from the top of the troposphere up to, the top of the troposphere from the bottom of the troposphere up to about 30 miles, the top of the stratosphere. And that is where the ozone layer resides. Now, he said it waxes and wanes. So it's very fluid. There can be high concentrations of ozone here, but, a whole of it over here, and because it's always moving around in the upper atmosphere, and it's very limited in concentration. Ozone, there isn't a whole lot of it. When he said that if you got it down to a singular molecular level, okay, what that means is that if all of Earth's ozone were compressed to Earth's surface, it would be 1/8 of an inch thick. I think he said 6 millimeters, but that's it. 1/8 of an inch thick. Now, out in space here, up in the top layers of the stratosphere, the top miles of the stratosphere, it's miles deep, but it's very, very low concentration. It's O3 here, O3 here. It's very, very dispersed, and it moves around. So, yeah, you can have, it's crazy, but it's just always fluid. Okay. So the thing about it is this O3 is, I forget the word. I'll remember it as soon as I finish making the video. But the third atom, oxygen atom, will part. Okay, it will just move away. So it'll leave O2 and O. So, and that is how. Now, Dane talks about geoengineering and the ozone layer. But let me tell you, the CFCs, okay, that we stopped using in America, okay, they take decades from when they're released on Earth before they get up to the top of the stratosphere where the ozone layer is, okay? And CFCs never existed until they were invented in a laboratory, I don't know, 20s, 30s, 40s, okay? But then they just sat on a shelf. They did nothing. I would say probably 60s, early, mid-60s, they started, thinking like, hey, we should put these in things. And, by the 70s, they were really starting to get put in things. Early 70s, definitely a lot. Okay, now, depending upon what type of CFC it is, they have different lifespans, okay? Or they take different amount of time before they get up to the ozone layer. And the most common type, which is used in refrigeration, I think, the most commonly used one, it takes on average of 50 years to get up to the ozone layer. So, if they sat on a shelf and nothing happened with them till 60, maybe 70s, they started to really get used. 60. So 50 years to that, 70, 80, 90, 2000, 2010, and then 2020, from the ones from the 70s are getting up to the top of the ozone layer. And so we still actually have a whole army of CFCs heading up to the ozone layer. Okay. Nobody talks about it, but you can't argue it. And even Dane doesn't really talk about that. He just talks about geoengineering. But we have this whole army of CFCs heading up to the ozone layer. And right now, he just said there is 23% of the ozone layer remaining, meaning the very few ozone molecules that are out here in space, and when they are compressed to Earth's surface, they're 1/8 of an inch thick. That at its height, when it was a full ozone layer, that's been reduced by 23%. Okay, so now at the end of this interview, which we're going to listen to here, the thing is that, ozone, we protect all living things, and no ozone, no life here. So we're going to listen to these guys wrap up this interview. Okay, so here they are wrapping things up.
Spread the word. Share the website, geoengineeringwatch.org. Share this interview. You can repost this interview. In fact, you have our permission to do so. This is a red alert moment for humanity. It's kind of it's a do or die thing. And I know there are so many concerns and so many threats that occupy people's consciousness, worried about the loss of the dollar, worried about inflation, which I understand. I mean, that's happening too. But if we don't have a functioning biosphere, nothing else matters. Your derivatives, your pensions, it doesn't matter if you're dead. If we don't have a biosphere, that's it, right? I mean, it's so obvious at this point.
I don't know. I don't have the words to thank you for being so clear on that point. Thank you, because that is the bottom line. If we don't deal with this and the planet's life support systems fail, all other causes, all other concerns become moot. Thank you for acknowledging that so clearly, Mike.
Well, thank you for all the work that you're doing here.
Okay, so then it just becomes here like every other independent media interview where they just, get all mushy and can't stop thanking each other for all that they're doing. Okay, except Mike Adams, what's he doing? Yeah, okay, he's bringing you this. Will he tell you, anything about all the environmental voices? Will he get hemp going? Will he get ending our disposable society going? Getting people to live responsibly? No interest in it. I've shown you, Brighteon. No, we're not interested in distributing that information. Natural News, maybe one of the two. I've shown it before, and Mike saying to Alex Jones, we're going to bring you a sustainable future, but they won't. But Mike brought you this, and yeah, it's, you know, what I put out here in 94. No ozone, no life. And I don't know how you get around this one, honestly, seriously. We honestly, seriously have an army of CFCs heading up to the ozone layer. And right now, Dane says we're at 23% of what the ozone layer was for, you know, a very long time. And it's needed to protect all living things on Earth, just like the guy said. So stay tuned, people.